Are we live? I don't
I
know.
think
When
so.
when we when we do it through Restream, it's really difficult if we don't have. I'm not in my home setup, y'all, so I'm like winging it, sitting by a window in this old farmhouse. Well, welcome everybody to Sales on Tap. This is our second live we've done. We do a monthly live, so this is our second one.
It
We're
is.
we're welcomed by Nick Marinkovich. Marinkovich. Yeah,
Yep.
I'll let him give you the proper pronunciation. But hi, I'm Celeste, one of the co-founders of Sales on Tap. We're excited for many of you. It's lunch and learn time to be tapping in on this live where Corey took a little bit of a liberty, creative liberty on the background image. So hopefully that brought all of you in. And then I solicited the heck out of people to join for this live because we do feel like the more people that see different things that hospitality sellers are doing today to drive their own pipeline, to gain awareness, to drive visibility, and drive credibility can help you do the same. So, Nick, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. What a great introduction, Celeste. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm Nick
I didn't
Marinkovich.
even
I'm
say
a
where you
sales.
were, so that's not a great
Yeah,
introduction. But I'll
I
let
think
you
it's
do that
great.
part.
I got it. I got you. No, Nick Marinkovich. I'm a sales manager over at Hyatt Regency Orlando. That's really the small market manager. I do all groups 10 to 100 on peak for this beautiful big hotel, and just super excited to kind of dive right into some of the fun things that I've been doing some with my team. Just these projects that really provide this unique way of positioning yourself in a very, very diluted market, right? There's so many players, especially in Orlando, right? There's so many different hotels that we constantly see going up against. So I just can't wait to dive right in, and very, very excited to be here with everyone today. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll set the stage a little bit. Sales on Tap, like a huge congratulations to this idea that we had that Susan, Corey, and myself came to market with. We announced our first corporate partner today, which was Commonwealth Hotels. They onboarded today into Sales on Tap. If you want more information on that, we are bringing long tail reinforcement training that changes as the market shifts. We no longer believe in one and done training. We're there in the trenches with sellers to help them build their own pipeline, create demand, and ultimately to highlight sellers like Nick. So, a fun fact, I am connected with someone on LinkedIn who I saw interacted with Nick. And all of a sudden, I started to go down the rabbit hole and look at Nick's videos. And then I sent him to my partners here to say, whoa, we have to get in touch with Nick. He is doing something and putting himself out there where most hospitality sellers are very uncomfortable behind the camera and putting themselves out there because we fear being judged. And what if it's silly? So we wanted to highlight Nick and really start to share about his content creation journey, what that looks like, how he gets inspiration, how he gets over imposter syndrome and feels comfortable hitting record so that he can share his videos with you. So I'll let Corey tee up some of the combos, but that's kind of how we came. We found him on LinkedIn. So just a testament to the LinkedIn platform and the people it serves up to you.
Yeah, and boy, I've shared that video in particular, that Valentine
Yeah.
video. I had people roll over. Oh my gosh, this is an amazing piece of content. So naturally, we wanted to have you on. So we're going to set the stage. So let's walk back, Nick. Before you started to embrace video as a sales tool, which it should be. By the way, your phone is we should consider that one of the best sales tools, and
Mm.
you're doing it perfectly. So let's see it set the stage. Walk us back to how you bleh, used to approach reaching group business leads. What did a typical week look like of prospecting for you before you did this?
So And for me, and it certainly could change for different organizations with using different CRM or event detailing platforms. But for me, with the platform that I'd use, I would kind of rely on history, and I would try and find certain contacts, information, data to support a certain time frame that we would need, whether it would be need dates, whether it's just an open week that demands kind of a higher rate, and try and identify those groups, pull a list, which is just kind of a time consuming process, and then find those contacts that I should reach out to. And at the time, what I was really doing is either I try and get on the phone, which we know answer rates right now, they're pretty low. And then if that didn't work, after voicemail, which is also kind of declined the ROI on voicemails, I would go into an email. But kind of throughout the 4 years, that has drastically changed, I think, especially throughout the COVID timeframe, on how we are reaching people. So to answer your question, Corey, it was really just compiling data, a list, figuring out when we needed to fill dates, who we needed to reach out to, what that ideal client was, and then just kind of the old school method of emailing and trying to get them on the phone. So but that all changed, right? It really morphed into something that has been not only enjoyable, but I can really see just how it's kind of working. And it's interesting to see in different people's perspective how it is working for them, right? Whether it's, oh my gosh, that was the funniest thing, or whatnot. But did I answer your question there for you, Corey?
Yeah, no, and in fact, just to touch on a little bit further, was that effective for you? And then those that are listening in the comments, is that is that the go-to playbook for those in the audience right now? I'm sure Celeste, you've got a little bit to add to that as well. But curious, Nick, was that effective for you? And that'll segue into question two I have for you.
I think it's when you have kind of that solely as your approach, it's a toss up, because it's, if you hit the person at the right time at the right place, it's kind of almost guessing on your part, right? And it's like frequent guessing. So you're trying to send these consistent emails, trying to figure out what the value add is, and just almost spamming them out there, right? And that is, it's just kind of lacks the personalization that I've really evolved into with how I'm kind of doing, like proactive prospecting, I like to call some of the stuff that I'm doing. So I think now versus then, what I'm doing now has been way more effective. And I'll go even a step further. It's been way more productive into relationship building and rapport building versus just a transactional touch point, because you're scrambling trying to fit like a need period or a need date, right? So it's taking a step back. It's not being reactive, it's being proactive, and just doing creative things so you always have a sense of presence, and a sense of awareness. And with all the AI going on now, like you tee up your LinkedIn profile, and the amount of stuff you're doing shows the engagement, shows the metrics, shows the impression, and it allows you, with the right information, putting in the right sections within LinkedIn, being that creative there and knowing that you're trying to target an audience. It helps with AI algorithm searches before they even really possibly even look at your hotel website. So it could be giving them this recommendation. So it's just having that knowledge that, if you do put in, and I wouldn't say it's even, for the LinkedIn, it's not an extraneous amount of effort. It's just being mindful about what you're trying to do and understanding who you're trying to target proactively.
Wonderful. Celeste, you want to touch on
yeah,
that?
I definitely, I want to add on that. So for those that don't know me, and I spent 20-ish years in event meeting management, hospitality. When I left, thanks to Corey, I read a book called Gap Selling, and I became a certified gap selling training partner. I am a partner, but I also handle a lot of the pipeline for gap selling. So I sit in this great place where I've been able to, for the last 3 years, peek into how tech and SaaS companies are outbounding today. And I will tell you, it's a yes and I think the shift that has happened is because there has been so much tech adoption and new tech and AI and tools and tooling overload that has come. You can no longer rely on one single channel to generate leads, and that can't be just the phone, just email. I mean, email is help. Email is like junk city central, and it's really hard to get a great email into the inbox just because of all of the filters that are happening. um Following up, referrals, content. So when you start to look across companies, we want each one of you as sellers to start looking at yourself as like a company. It is the yes and it is not just selling and the phone and one tool. It is all of them. And if we don't embrace all of them, we are going to miss a potential buyer or a prospect wherever they are. They're on multiple platforms, they're spending time in many different places. That's why you see a rise in events and small events. Like, people are craving connection. And so I think, to Nick's point, we have to be willing to adapt. I know for myself, I rely, yes, I still cold message people and I send a lot of DMs on LinkedIn. And here and there, I will make cold calls and I'll write a script for it and I will practice it, but I create content. And the amount of people that'll say, I've seen your content over and over again. Oh, you're the lady that wears red. Ooh, I saw you. This person referred you. So I love how you're talking about it is all you're still doing some of that traditional outreach and messaging, but you're also embracing meeting our buyers where they are today, which a lot of us are consuming social content, and we have to have those dopamine hits over and over and over and over again from somebody to say, I feel like I know him. I've seen his content and I feel like I know him. So I think you're embracing this shift that a lot of people feel really uncomfortable about right now because it is vulnerable. You're putting yourself on camera. I mean, I'm about to blow my nose on a live right here, but like, I have such bad allergies, they won't stop.
Oh my. So this is a great segue into the next question I was going to ask Nick, and it's, what was the specific moment, a planner, a comment that made you realize they were consuming your content, or they were watching you before they even reached out?
So there's, it's really kind of tickles a little bit. It's really interesting to see because in a few instances, there's been folks who have seen another colleague in the hotel, just like they're walking around and they stop them. And I haven't had a prior conversation with them, but through their network, through my seconds, maybe even a third, they saw that video. And there's just been, 5, 6 instances just to this point since I very first started back, I think April, that they're asking for me as they're at the hotel. And they tell me, and I'm like, oh wait, who's that? And then I go and like, now I'm on like a hunt trying to go find them. Right. And, if you like have a conversation, but it's the, just people reaching, some folks even say sometimes, and I think it's funny that I miss my calling. I do love the acting component of it too, but it really is about how it's touching, an audience that is bigger than just inbound funnel, right? It's going to be grabbing attention, and some of the stuff that I'm doing, right? Like for instance, I'll do the Valentine's video. Yeah, it's a little crazy, right? It's like, what the heck is he doing? But it's kind of funny, so it's how, in the reason, and I think I mentioned this, Corey, on a different call, but the reason I love doing some of the bringing in some comedy in that is we're all so busy in our lives, right? And if there's a way that I can bring a laugh to somebody and just brighten a day, that makes me happy. That's good enough for me, right? So that's what I want to embody, is that feeling of, hey, before they even source us, like they know that they have a guy who's fun to work with at that hotel, who does some fun things, who they think that guy, me in this instance, will take care of them. And then all of a sudden, this process, and I've seen it because I get tons and tons of inbound RFPs, but the ones that are the folks who have seen my stuff on LinkedIn, it is no longer a transactional conversation. I don't have to chase it. It becomes this just partnership. It's a collaboration, and I'm a consultant. And I say, hey, I think I can do this for you. What do you think? What works for you? What are your needs? How can I best help you here? And it's just, it's so fluid at that point that it just takes so much of the hurdles away. And all of a sudden it's just this beautiful like dance, right? It really has been amazing to see kind of the differences that it's made from when I started versus when I before I started. So it's, and it continues to make an impact. So that, it's just, that's one thing I want to convey, right? And I mentioned this earlier, Corey, is you don't necessarily have to dress up in a costume like I do, but you can show, show who you are, right? Where you are and what you do where you are in a way that is you without compromising, right? Be you and be the expert
Yep.
and build the rapport before they even send you an RFP. And I promise when you do this, you get in the fluid, the motion of doing it, putting things out there and get away from the whole data dumping, right? Because everybody gets inundated with that stuff nowadays. And then you show who you are, it's going to make a big difference for you in the future.
You brought up a really good point. And this is this is one thing that Celeste and I and Susan talk about a lot is the low conversion via third party RFPs, 3 to 5% tip traditionally, right? So I'm curious, is that when you see an inbound come in and it's a faceless nameless piece of business versus one that they probably already are familiar with you, how much more value do you put on that lead that from those that are familiar with you, for maybe if they've seen you online? I'm assuming you probably have a better shot at that piece of business, right? Is that a safe assumption?
Yeah, it's, you're absolutely right, Corey. If you've had a touch point that is not necessarily a direct, right? Like I'm sending them a prospecting email. It's super cold. I haven't talked to them before. I haven't met them in person. They haven't seen any of my, content, which obviously the goal is that content, it grows to an audience where it's like, there's just this awareness. But if that hasn't happened, then it just becomes like, it's almost like it's a cold inbound RFP, and you have to really start the entire process over and figure out, how can I show the value to this individual? And I'll tell you what I have done, Corey, is I've actually taken the link from some of my LinkedIn videos, and as I either send a proposal, tell them I'm working on it, I will send it to them and I'll say, hey, by the way, you should check this out. And one that I was using for a while is when I had our sushi chef, Philip Wu, wonderful guy, does an incredible job. Has been making sushi for 20 years. If you haven't tried it, come try it out. It's amazing. But we did a video together and he taught me how to make a California roll. I did terrible at it, but I didn't care because it was about him. It wasn't about me. It was about showing who our staff are here at the hotel, right? There's something so amazing about somebody getting to meet not just a salesperson, but somebody else on the team before they step in. So anytime I'm really starting to, it's a new lead, I don't know them, I try and like really open up the door by being like, all right, this is kind of awkward of me, but you should check it out. His sushi's fantastic. This just opened up last December. And all of a sudden, if they kind of go through with that, then it kind of warms it up a little bit. So it just, use it, not only like post your content. If you're not connected with them on LinkedIn, if you don't know if they're on LinkedIn, still send them the video. Like if you have a video that is meaningful for you and you think it might provide some sort of value, whether that's value, monetary value, or if you think it's like just comedic value, say, hey, I think you'll enjoy this, then send it their way. And all of a sudden, you never know what door of possibility that could open up for you.
So Celeste, that kind of goes against the notion of ABC, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure that there is any prospect or buyer out there who appreciates the hard sell. I mean, you'll see it often where people on LinkedIn are talking about the connect and pitch. And I see both sides of the coin, right? As sellers, they're being told that their job is to build community, to build their connections, to pitch their products and services and solutions. And buyers some of them have a visceral reaction to that, and they will outwardly shame you for doing that. And I feel badly because a lot of sellers are told, like, you always have to be closing, like, talk about your product. Everybody is a prospect. And we lose this kind of personalization of, I say this in all of our trainings, like, you never walk up to someone at a networking event and just start talking about your product and asking them if they're going to buy. Like, we don't do that in a human to human interaction. And so when we ask our sellers to do this, we don't give them any context around how do you start a conversation? How do you look at a signal? How do you send them something that's of value? Or to Nick's point, seeing something and then sending a video that correlates. that goes a long way versus you saying, "Do you have any business for me?" And I think we're starting to see this shift where sellers are, and I myself, I mean, yesterday was talking about like, gosh, the no's and the walls I'm up against, and I'm selling change is very difficult. And sometimes it gets to me, but I remember that every piece of content I put out there that's educational and provides value or shows a bit of my wonky personality or behind the scenes, it's just adding more into that credibility bucket. So I think we're at this place where people are tired of their junk inbox. They're tired of just being asked like, quick question, do you have a minute? Like, sell, sell, sell. And so I think the sellers that are embracing different forms of media, whether that's video, whether that's doing memes, like something that just breaks the pattern interrupt. I remember I had someone, his name's Marco. I just chatted with him the other day, like to try to re-engage him. And I hadn't heard from him in a while. And I sent a little meme that was the Marco Polo meme, and that got his attention, and he responded about like how funny that was because his name's Marco. So any types of those things that we can do to show like relevance and personalization, that we have a personality, it's just more one more in our win column for a this person. It's like is a person, they have a personality, they're human, they're trying to connect with me on a human level versus trying to pitch me something. And to Nick's point, I vividly remember seeing Chris Bogue on LinkedIn, which Corey's like an OG of
Oh yeah,
LinkedIn,
totally.
and he was early to video. And I remember saying, you know what, I'm gonna go all in on video. I have no clue what I'm doing. This was over 4 years ago. I took his course and I started to make video using Wave Video Editor, which was like so clunky and old school. This was 4 years ago. And I started posting my first videos on LinkedIn. And, I didn't, it's no, we didn't have CapCut. Like there wasn't all of these tools. I didn't have InDesign. But I just made a consideration of, you know what, I'm going to put myself out there, even though I may hear nothing, but building it over and over. I promise you, the consistent, how consistent you are, it does resonate. And many of us have been taught with this always be closing that you're going to have the win today. And I'm here to tell you, we don't know when that win is coming, but if you're constantly making the deposits, you're going to be able to make that withdrawal. But you can't make the withdrawal today if you haven't put the deposits in.
Well, and now, guys, from a marketing perspective, we all know now with AI shortlisting, if you're not adding, it's one thing to put a face and name to warm that up, but if you're not adding those daily deposits online, adding value, education, memes, funny stuff, you're going to be invisible, right? So making it to the short list is another part or another component of what we're talking about. It's actually two part. It's a two-part strategy. So being present online is not just that warming up process, but it's how you're going to be found, right?
Yes, and I will say, and thank you for sharing that data. I'm forgetting who it comes from, but I know you and Susan will tell me here in a second.
Uh-oh.
It so often the three of us are talking about the what sellers, what is happening, what the marketplace wants, what we're seeing out there. But when we have data to back it up, we are like, oh yes, it's not just us. It's like a parent telling you not to do something, and then somebody else comes in and like has some data, and you're like, see, I told you. We are at this place, and I've shared it with the last two in-persons I did. Like we now have data to support how powerful LinkedIn is from a personal credibility standpoint. And it's SEMrush. They put out the
Yep.
statistics, and what different like Perplexity, Copilot, all of these, what they're pulling from. And it is saying that we can't hide behind our company anymore. You as an individual, what you're putting out there and those credibility signals are being pulled from LinkedIn into AI. So if you think that you're going to get found or that you're going to have more chances at bat by not contributing, like the data says no.
Indeed. And by the way, you had mentioned it. I'm going to get Nick's take on this as well, but I think oftentimes we think putting ourselves out there is putting ourselves out there for our company or for somebody we work with. And that's not necessarily the case. And Celeste, we talk about this all the time. I think that's
Mhm.
possibly the barrier
Yeah.
is that the things that we talk about, a personal brand, is
Mhm.
something that you control. No one else
Mhm.
controls it. Your other last three companies don't control it. That's something you can control. So not only are you doing this for who you are employed with or who are you working for, but you're also doing it for yourself, right?
Yes. And I will say when I do these exercises in person, the deer in headlights or the crickets, like I do one exercise where they talk about the hotel or your venue, and everybody can talk about that all day long. And then I turn it internally. Like now we're going to think about ourselves, and we're going to think about what we stand for and what we can talk about. And you should see everybody gets so uncomfortable because I think often we are hiding behind who we work for because there is a whole brand story. There's marketing around that. We're being told what to say. Like we believe it. We love our product and our service. But when we're forced to talk about ourselves, all of a sudden we don't feel as comfortable and confident, especially women. And so when they take that time to start thinking about like what are some of the things that I could talk about that are like this mesh between a personal and professional brand, those are going to stick with you. And it's okay if they change over time, but people buy from people, right? And if we're just a constant ad
Yep.
that's only talking about where we work, a lot of times it's noise. We don't, which is why I think the rise of the social media influencer and what they are able to drive from their user generated content. Because when we see that, we're like, yes, they're talking to me. The product is just an addition. Like I feel a connection with this person. And so it's a journey, but people want to see that hero story, right? They want to see that journey and the behind the scenes because they don't often. And I think, Nick, to what you just said about the sushi making and an experience that you could have at your hotel, like that's exciting for people. They don't know how to make, they don't know how to make sushi at home. What does that look like? Could I do a sushi making class? Who is this person who's making my sushi? We want to see that. We're nosy Nellies. Plus
Absolutely.
it feels more human versus an ad. We don't want to see an ad. Like we get it. This is where you work. We get it. That's the brand. We want to see the people and hear your story.
That's a really great way to summarize it because you're absolutely right. People do business with other people, not faceless, nameless brands. So, the next question I'm going to ask you, and this is where I'm going to get down to brass tacks here. The ROI, right? Everybody wants to know what the
Mm.
ROI is. So, Nick, can you share one result, a booking, relationships, an RFP that made you shortlist? And can you actually trace that back to your social media presence?
Yeah. So, I think there are two examples I'll use. One of which was during last year, kind of some things going on with the government. So unfortunately, after I had him go forward, there was some cutback and they had to cancel. Right. So just kind of an unfortunate instance. But what I had decided to do, I was pretty much fighting and fighting and fighting and trying to see what we had to do to get on a short list, looking at the overall value package, looking at just everything involved, right? Just kind of the nitty gritty of what's involved with all of the brass details of an RFP in your proposal. And I could sense I was getting close. It eventually ended up to where I had a site tour. So the site tour ended up going really well. And I believe before that I had kind of just started to do some of the videos, and I started actually with a photo, and the photo is where I'm dressed up. I think I was like a doctor, a tennis player, a cowboy. I can't remember what the fourth one was, but it was just funny, and it started off with a really great note. And so I looked at that, and I really, after my tour was over and we had a great time, I said, you know what, I'm going to make a video dedicated to that client, dedicated to her group, why this is a great fit, why it works well, how it addressed her questions she asked me on site. And I did it, went, worked with my director of marketing. He has a beautiful camera, had a mic, mic'd up, walked through, did a little thing, B-roll shots, me talking about the space. And on the same day, they came in for a site tour. We did the video. I sent it to them, and they were like, "We're moving forward with you."
That's
Nice.
awesome.
So it's like, obviously I mentioned the whole thing, and government funding was cut, and that unfortunately couldn't go, but it's there. You could see it, the ROI. It doesn't necessarily, obviously I'm all for LinkedIn. Do LinkedIn video. I love them, right? Be creative, but you can take it outside of LinkedIn too. And I've done it once where I took it outside of LinkedIn. I made a video where I was doing another site video for a group who was considering Orlando or France. I mean, I was like, okay, those are two pretty big different
Right.
destinations to consider. But what I said is like, well, why don't we give them France and Orlando? Let's see if that'll work. So I spent time with our one of our executive chefs for our pastry chef Alon. He's from France, and he had curated a chocolate board that was an Eiffel Tower made of chocolate with all of these things. Like, it was just beautifully displayed. You can find it. I eventually ended up posting a portion of it on LinkedIn because it was just so good. And that created this amazing relationship with the group. Ultimately, it went to France, but I have this really wonderful relationship I built with the planner, and she pretty much told me, we're looking at you first, no one else next year.
Love it.
So it's just like, even the whole point I'm conveying in some of these scenarios is like, even if it's not directly tied to an immediate ROI, believe me when I say this, you are going to build a relationship where when you do reach out to these people, whether that's an email or a call, they're not going to ghost you. They remember you because you did something so unique that no one else has done for them, that it just creates this like, wow, they really want to step above. Wow, I can really lean on Nick for his ideas. Wow, Nick is really fun to work with. And all of a sudden, it's not even transactional. You used to be, hey, hope your kids are doing well. I know it's been a little bit since we've connected. Maybe we can set up a time in the next month to catch up. And it takes things just out of the whole, I'm selling, what can you bring me? And it's like, hey, how are you? How's your family? You become a partner. You have this relationship, right? The one that I will say that did move forward, I had a site tour. And this is why LinkedIn, I think, is just incredible. Not only for building up your audience, doing engagement, or just creating, videos or posts or engaging with other people's posts. But if you have Sales Navigator, I mean, that is such an amazing tool that people really should be utilizing more. If you aren't, I had a group coming in for a site, and I was really doing my homework. I was trying to figure out who they were, what's important, what matters the most for them. Is there any insight onto where they had it last year? Because oftentimes you'll see how people are posting about where they did their conference or their annual summit, maybe a year or 2 years ago, right? And then using that information, I was able to kind of curate a map that I was going to include certain bits and pieces of value adds throughout the tour. And a big thing for this particular group was involvement with charity. So I even had our director of HR involved. I had a presentation I put together. I constantly mentioned things about achievements this particular individual had done in the past. So it's like having the familiarity and doing a little bit of homework too, but also using that as a creative approach to be like, I know what is going to, really make this thing go around. Like, I know what's going to make this successful. And then they ultimately booked with me. Right. So it's, and I know sometimes when you're asked, you're like, how can you be creative? What are you going to do? What are you doing to book business? I think at that time, when you haven't had time to really process it, proactively, and it's a reactive thing, then your mind's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. You're like, how am I going to be creative? But if you take it, take a step back, all right, and then you start looking at things in the lens of like, how can I really start a proactive, map a proactive strategy of how I can express my personal brand or be creative with people, or hint, dropping something for people in there, take videos of the space to post on a YouTube channel so they don't have to come in for a site. I just gave away a big one, but I want to help. I want to share these ideas because I think, we really could have a lot more differentiating value in the hospitality sales, market of who's all selling. So, just different things like that. And they really do make a big difference.
Nice. So Celeste, boy, Nick is really, he's a savvy, not only a great seller, but you're a great marketer, by the way, which is It's
Thank you.
amazing. So you hit it right on the head. And when we talk about ROI, we're having sometimes difficulties in a reactionary type culture that if you put in time or effort here, there's a direct result, and that doesn't necessarily happen that way. It's hard to track, it's hard to measure in an industry that's obsessed with attribution. Celeste, how do we overcome that? What Nick had just said, because he's going through a lot of creative process. Some leaders might think creativity in sales that doesn't make sense to us. So,
So,
can you
I'm
share?
gonna talk about the flip side of the coin here.
Yep.
Actually had to educate somebody on this yesterday. We are a culture that in sales that is obsessed with ROI and selling to ROI. And ROI, from my gap selling experience, is a future state. It is, I like to call it Narnia. It's a nice to have. We all want it. But when we start looking at the cost of inaction, the cost of not doing something or like staying where you are, so to speak, it often far outweighs the ROI. So, Nick, if I was your manager and you came to me and said, I'm thinking about starting to create video, and the reason is this many RFPs have come through. We have lost this many, which I'm just going to say 95%. That is equated to, I don't know, $7 million. I have, out of the ones that we've lost, I have 0 touch points, no personalization. Like you can keep going to quantify like what we don't have. And the root cause is because I'm not creating video in a way to open up a conversation with them. Like we can show all of that as our cost of inaction of not having these creative touch points. To me, that speaks a lot more to why we should do something versus the potential ROI. So in that case, your cost of inaction is missing out on a future opportunity for that person who's doing the France business. If you would have never sent that video, they would have never considered you probably moving forward. You wouldn't make the short list. You'd go into a pool of a lot of hotels in Orlando. So that is a great use case on your cost of inaction. If I don't continue to do this for this one customer, it's a potential loss of how much, future revenue. So I love using cost of inaction as a way to speak to leaders about if we aren't willing to change or not willing to do this behavior, what are we missing out right now? And I think you have that when we start to look at our RFPs. A couple things came up for me because I know, and I can't see the comments, but I can assure you that there are some sellers who are watching this or will watch this on the replay and they're like, yeah, but Nick works at a big box hotel. Nick has access to a pastry chef. Nick has a sushi chef. We don't have any of that. And nobody is saying that it has to cost you a dime. Most people have a smartphone. That's all you need these days.
Mhm.
And we go as so far to talk about like the low lift things that you can do. And Nick pointed it out. Video doesn't have to be this big curated thing. You can send a proposal to someone and attach a video or a link to a video that's showing the space that you're proposing. This is what it looks like. I'm walking around in your space, wanted to put a face with a name. This is our chef who's going to be doing this is our bellman. I mean, whatever it is, personalize the heck out of it based on their use case because nobody is doing this. And that is free. It just takes a few minutes. So I definitely wanted to point that out because I don't know if Susan's moderating comments and anybody's like, yeah, but he works at a big box full service. He has a marketing director. Like, if you're a single seller, I get it. You don't have that, but you don't necessarily have to have it. So I wanted to make that point. And if you want me to share, I remember my very first win from LinkedIn. If you want me to share it.
Wait a minute.
Okay. Oh,
You're
I'm jumping ahead. Okay. Okay.
yes.
So I would say from a sales leader point of view, push back and stop having people obsess about ROI and start showing them your lost leads, your RFPs that you have no touch point of. You have no way to connect with that person, and you can make a case for why sending a video, why creating a personalized something another can help you with those future bookings by focusing on the cost of an action versus, a future ROI.
Yeah, we talked quickly about if there's been any study or analytics of the time and resources that are put together that have gone into that 95% of those RFPs,
Mhm.
and they're lost. If and the ability to just help add additional personalization, how many more of those would have converted? So,
I'd
in
love to
fact,
see a case. If someone wants to commission us, we will help you with this, because I do think, it's talking about, and we'll continue to talk about this, the shift that is happening in hospitality. I talked with a regional leader the other day, and she's like, the pressure is on. If my team does not start showing that they can create pipeline, like we're gonna have an issue. I can't justify their positions. And so I think things that Nick doing out there, you can show impressions, you can show how many people watched a YouTube video, you can show that it was shared and it led to someone saying, hey, we're not considering you now, but future, right? I can quantify, maybe that's a $500,000 group piece of business. Like, you can put some metrics around that, and that is a safety net that you start to create for yourself, and it becomes very valuable.
job insurance, I love it. So, with that, we're gonna switch this up and ask Nick, if a hotel seller is watching this right now, or maybe watching it a little bit later down the line, what's just one LinkedIn approach they could do over the next 6 months that's going to help them move the needle? If you were to do it all over again today.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, it's something I'm still working on too, right? The thing I would recommend, just if you're really trying to get your feet wet in the LinkedIn realm, and you're trying to find a way in, and this is one thing, Sales on Tap, that I really was able to dive into. If you haven't done it, I highly recommend it. It's a great course. Go through it, do it. It's wonderful, right? You'll be able to
There we
reframe your
go.
LinkedIn and do all that great stuff. Celeste and Corey and the team, you guys did a phenomenal job. So I
Thank you.
couldn't say, it's a great course. But
He's
what I
not
what I
paid to say that.
I'm not. I'm not. I promise you. My
Checks
toes are
on the
crossed. No,
window
I'm just
though.
kidding. No, it's start slowly. Either build it into your routine, whether that's 5-10 minutes in the morning, or even later at night. If you're going to bed, right? I know most of the time people are already scrolling on Instagram. Maybe add in LinkedIn to it, and then maybe go down, like posts that are relevant to you, engage with posts that are relevant to you, comment, right? Repost something that's meaningful to you, share it, send it. Uh, just start. It doesn't have to be a big step, right? You don't have to go straight, oh, Nick's doing video, I got to do videos. Like,
Right.
sure, like you can figure out like your strategy, kind of how you want to present yourself and your brand. And then, but I say to start out, just become a little bit more involved with LinkedIn, because a lot of things actually do happen on there, and a lot of connections are made when used the right way, right? You can connect with, I don't know, it's 100 people in a week. Is that right, Corey? I think that's kind of what's
Yeah.
standard right now. And even better, if you have Sales Navigator, I don't even know if there is a cap on that. I really don't know. I mean, I'm still learning all the ins and outs of Sales Navigator, right? So, but it's just embrace it. Technology, AI, it's ever changing. And I think the most beneficial thing that you can do is to get involved and accept the change, and just kind of ride the wave and see where it takes you.
Wonderful. All right, Celeste. Now you can take a shot at this one. You're up. Tip.
Which, oh,
Tip. If
it's
you were to give a hotel seller that is currently just lurking in the shadows of LinkedIn right now, and is looking to take, maybe just start and engage on LinkedIn, what would be the first step or the first tip you would give them?
I hate to be this person that says there's a lot of low hanging fruit, that phrase,
No.
right? But I will say, pick one keyword, maybe it's even hotel, and put it in the search bar, and then go to posts. So, one keyword: hotel, hospitality, maybe it's your city. Scottsdale is huge for these conferences. Maybe it's the word conference, and then go to post. So LinkedIn allows you to look by people, by company, by post. Posts is our gold mine. And then just scroll down. You're going to see a lot of ads. You're going to see a lot of people posting jobs, but you're going to see a lot of people talking about a hotel experience, a hotel stay, a conference they just had, an upcoming event that they're going to, asking about a hotel, it is like the easiest place to start, just getting in the comments. I saw one the other, oh my gosh, I've seen two. One the other day where someone's like, "Will someone at the Fairmont blank please message me back?" I've contacted 5 people on LinkedIn. I've messaged the hotel, and now there were all these people in the comments, including myself, who's like, "Stop giving business to hotels that never respond to you. It's like the only way they're going to learn." Like there's so many conversations that are happening, and this person is a keynote speaker who is tied to a conference. Like, just find one keyword and get curious about it. But posts are a great place for you to add your 2 cents. You don't have to make a post about it. You're just adding commentary, adding something of value, starting a conversation, responding to somebody. So that would be my number one, like, lowest level tip that is super easy. A keyword, go to posts, and then just scroll and start commenting. It's going to drive people back to your profile. They're going to get curious. Who is this person weighing in? I would say that is a easy peasy place to start. And if you're in Scottsdale, there are so many conferences that you can start to prospect from. Probably Orlando too, Nick. You probably should look at this because people are talking about conferences. Then you can do what Nick's talking about and get ahead of it. Reach out to that person, create a video, etc., for the next rotation for the conference.
Wonderful. I'm going to add. Actually, I'm going to add a little
Yeah.
to your little strategy.
Corey, what
there.
about you?
I advise anybody that's starting out to never like a post. Only comment. Pretend LinkedIn is a in-person networking event at MPI. You got the ability to walk into an MPI event every day over coffee, 15 minutes, make it a non-negotiable. You set aside some time, jump in there, leave at least 5 comments with 5 words. There's so many planners. The meeting planner community on LinkedIn is crazy robust. Jump into some comments, strike up conversations, drop create some thoughtful conversation. I can't tell you how many people, if I literally intentionally every morning say, I'm going to meet 3 people today, I can just jump in there, create some conversation, and next thing you know, I'm scheduling time on my calendar. It is so easy to meet people, to strike up conversations, and begin to start adding some value. And it's one thing to connect it with that one person, but it's actually, Celeste, you posted a crazy, one of your comments got like 60,000 impressions. It's one thing to leave a thoughtful comment on somebody's post, but it's the residual of all the other planners that are going to see how smart you are because you dropped something that was either funny, personal, of value, and it all multiplies. So I would say don't even post. Don't even forget about posting. Just spend 15 minutes a day, 5 comments, 5 words, no liking. You will see value with very little pain. So that would be my quick takeaway.
I would say, an analogy to that is going to an event and just waving at people. Nobody really remembers that. You start a thoughtful conversation, you get into it. Maybe you take a contrarian view, and I'm not talking that we got to go like political and race and any of that. No, I'm saying like I think Corey commented on one this morning where someone was talking about AI and leisure, and it's like, this is all I'm seeing is everybody talking about like AI and OTAs and leisure and who owns the commission, and I'm like, well, what about group sales, right? I'm constantly like trying to bring that into conversations because I feel like we're the only people talking about it.
Wild.
But now then other people start talking about it. And I had one the other day where it's like I tagged my husband. It was about tipping in a hotel, and a CRO was like, when has tipping been a thing? And I was like, since the dawn of time. And then I started to go in there, and my husband got in it, and then the other Nick got in there, and then other people were in there. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's poor post was because of me and the people I brought to it because they see my comments. So you can be a conversation starter without even knowing it. And it has to go beyond the great posts, congrats on the promotion. Like, get in the conversation. You have expertise, you have things to say.
I almost, and this was crazy. I almost posted somebody had a job position or a promotion or something like that. I literally saw 10 comments on the auto congratulations with the party thing. 10 of them. And I'm like, no. I mean, it's almost insulting now. Like if you drop an AI generated auto response like that, please don't do that. And please, for the love of all that's good, if someone leaves a very thoughtful, heartfelt comment on your post, please just don't like it. That is, my gosh, please respond. Just start leaving some words, start commenting. So much value there. So break
And
that
it's
like that.
hard. I'll tell you, it. I missed some comment. I was training at Virginia, Visit Virginia Beach 2 weeks ago, and multiple sessions, and I was showing people about like what is happening with AI and us missing out on searches and kind of things that we've talked about today. And I pulled up something, and one person was like, all of those people viewed your profile in one in just in the last day. And I was like, yeah, usually from my comments. And I think what we don't realize, or maybe we don't give ourselves enough oomph. And if you need it from me, I'm like the least confident person in the world. I just pretend to be confident. Like if you drop value and bombs and you're in conversations, people think you're everywhere, and they start wanting to like buddy up to that too. I promise, like you can build it from nothing, and it is easy to do, which poor Susan has been over here like in the background. She kind of likes being on the operational side, but she even talks about as an introvert, it's like your keyboard and being behind your screen, you can do amazing powerful things. You don't have to be like front and center on camera. That is just one avenue.
Well,
Oh,
this is a great segue because we are going to
look,
bring you.
I have a young budding entrepreneur with me who's
All
on spring
right,
break.
your supervisor. So
She's
this
like,
is a great segue into the introverts part, right?
mm,
Susan's been monitoring the comments. Looks like we do have some questions, I
ooh,
believe. Susan, what do we got? You want to?
We don't have a ton. Maya Hannah asked what's an inbound RFP.
ooh, Maya. Yes, I'm happy to take that one. So Maya, what and I hope I'm not this like scare tactic person. I'm usually like a glass half full type of person, but I am trying to be like more of like, or glass half empty. I don't know, whatever. The realistic person. I can see the writing on the wall because we've had a couple conversations with companies, and we see what's coming, which is AI tools are going to start doing some of the work at hotels, like responding to RFPs, which is really great if you work at a small hotel and maybe you have turnover and the RFP just sits, it doesn't get responded to. Well, now a tool can help with that. So there's no lapse in RFP time. Well, with that, owners are going to start asking, like, Kennedy, please go downstairs, honey. I'll be there in a minute. What are you doing? What can you attribute to your own personal actions, like Nick is talking about? So I can say if I did 25 prospecting activities, I made this many calls, it resulted in one RFP that we received, or option for us to bid on a piece of, I don't know, group business, catering business. Like I generated that myself. That's called self-generated. So traditionally in hospitality, I would say 99.9% of the business is an inbound RFP, because the brands have such a powerful marketing engine. And with Cvent, planners are dumping that in, and you receive an RFP that you respond to. So you didn't generate that. Your own sales actions didn't generate that. So that's what we consider inbound. It comes in through some type of channel, email, Cvent, the brand direct to you. It was generated by marketing efforts. Corey, anything you want to add on kind of classifying inbounds?
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned that because things that we've learned from working with our global sales team is that oftentimes meeting planners have been using RFPs to price check and
Mhm.
inundate sellers
Yeah.
on a massive quantity of RFPs that have come in. But because of what we talked about, shortlisting and AI, we do see and anticipate not only technology fulfilling, because no one wants to wait anymore. And traditionally, we know that's been
Yeah.
so multiple technology platforms have been solving that problem of a planner looking for a venue and there be a time lag. Um, in addition to a decline in volume RFPs, because the planners are doing a lot of the shortlisting themselves, getting it down to 5, 7, maybe,
Mhm.
not having to send out
Mhm.
25 or so. So being on this leading edge of the seller adding the value of the big Rolodex.
Right.
And as you mentioned, Celeste, is that mindset shift of not having to do the busy work, which is not necessarily a bad thing, right? That's kind of an
Yeah.
exciting thing.
Yeah. And I do think we're going to get to a point. I asked, the person that asked this, you'll know who I'm talking about. I asked an organization the other day, how much pipeline can you attribute to being self-generated by your sales force this past year? And they looked at me like, it's not even a conversation. And I don't fault the industry for that. I think we just know this is where it's going because traditional sales teams, yes, there's a marketing engine that is bringing in inbound, but that is only a piece of the pie. Sellers still spend a lot of time going outbound to generate pipeline because when you get that one-to-one, right, that planner now who's choosing between Orlando and France, they now know Nick. Nick has like stacked the deck that that person is going to reach out to Nick first, and he has 100% chance to win that RFP versus an inbound RFP that's being sent to 20 hotels. You're
Bingo.
maybe going to win it 5% of the time.
Mhm.
Um, that's that's not great. It's not great odds. I'd rather. I think last year I had. I was talking with 3 companies at the same time. I self generated all of those, and I won 1 out of 3. But it's like I found those at one point. Like that's a much higher win rate than me just responding. I don't even respond to RFPs anymore on the gap selling side. Like we won't take it. You send me an RFP, like
You know,
I'm
it's
not
funny
doing it.
about that. It is the whole RFP culture in marketing and advertising agencies. Successful agencies don't even participate because they know it's an exercise you have to go through to win the business. And
Yeah,
traditionally, they don't convert at all. Yet it's the norm in hospitality, or at least right now it
it's
is. Right?
and I'm wondering, like, when we talk about the cost of an action, like, here's a little seed to put in there, and then I know we'll get back to the question. But for those of you who are at big box destination hotels that do fam trips, that pay for airfare and for people to come for an RFP that you don't win, if we start adding all of that up versus I have 100% hunter on my team that goes out, finds a piece of business, we're going to pay for them to come in because we're going to win that 75% of the time. I would put my eggs in that basket all the time. And I'm afraid at some point owners are going to realize this and start to see that shift, which is why we're trying to pour into, like, you can build your own pipeline. Sure, it's going to take a while, but it's there. And when you win those, it's like so much sweeter because you worked for it and you win at such a higher percent than you do an inbound RFP.
Oh man, repeat business all day
Mhm.
long. You build that relationship and they follow you no matter where you go because it's you're the value and not necessarily just another set of 4 walls, stacked chairs, and a chandelier. Yes, there's tons of great venues, and I'm not discounting any of the properties, but they want to work with Nick, right? Nick,
Yeah.
and you got beautiful property, but I would imagine your relationships are so strong, they would walk over broken glass to work with you no matter where you went. I'm just going to throw that out there because they know that you got their back, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's again, it comes from not just the whole being creative, but I think it comes from the really being rooted in wanting to be a consultant and wanting to care. And the creativity route is what kind of gets me in front of the people that expresses that I do want to be a consultant and I do care. And then once it comes in and it becomes that partnership, it becomes that really good conversation. You can feel the difference between, like we talked about earlier, one that I have had absolutely no impact on, they've never seen any of my stuff, versus somebody who has. Then it's like pick up the phone, call, boom, ring, answer, talk through it. I have a couple of questions, get it done, 5 minutes, done, and we're good. Versus chasing, trying to get them on the phone, leaving a voicemail, sending so many emails. It's just kind of dead,
Yeah.
and you said it very, very, it was just perfect how you said it. Is a lot of times what we do see is the market research is essentially what it is. I mean, for my particular market, there's been instances where I've gone up against 90 properties. I mean, 90, you know,
Dang.
maybe 95% of which are just here in Orlando.
Mhm.
So, they are really just bring together a list. Maybe at that
Mhm.
point, it's a quick turnaround. They choose 5 to 7, and if you
Yep.
haven't really made a relationship before that, kind of good luck.
Right.
So that's what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to reach them before it even
Mhm.
happens so I have
Nice.
a better chance.
Love it.
And the inbound too, or it's, just generating my own,
Mhm.
business through just proactive work
Mhm.
through LinkedIn engagement, through LinkedIn videos, through developing a YouTube channel, through potentially a podcast. I don't know, it's just there's everything, all cards on the table. I want to have every
Sure.
avenue. I want to go through and try it. Right. I just think that's kind of where we're at now. And find your way to do that. Find your inspiration and creativity and how you want to express your personal brand, and how you want to get in front of people before they even source you, or get in front of people to make them want to source you. Right. So it's just, yeah, so many great things.
And
Awesome.
I would say the little silver lining that kind of like maybe wraps all this up, because I know we're coming at time, is something you just touched on, is the entrepreneurial mindset. Team, I think we need to dive into this. The entrepreneurial mindset that you are
All
taking to your position. Like, you are owning it, and I'm going to try all of these different avenues and ways, versus it being a job that you show up to, that you respond to. So I love that, and I appreciate that about you.
Great stuff.
I think, sorry, Corey, I think Maya had another question
Yeah, have at
about
it.
how do you implement the strategy to boost your hotel page. So, like for instance, I'll kind of in some of the posts that I do on LinkedIn, I'll kind of do my post copy. I'll have, whatever I've done, whether it's the Valentine's Day video or the sushi video, and somewhere in the post copy, I'll generally make a reference to the hotel. So I'll, at Hyatt Regency Orlando. And so when you implement those pieces, those nuggets of information into the post copy, or you tag it into the photo or something like that, you're just including that information essentially throughout some form of your content, right? Then over time, kind of with what we've been talking about with like AI searches, right? That will kind of transfer into the data that's compiled when you're looking at it. So, and I see your another note in usually post social activities community service. I've been in the market for the hotel, but at some point my face is all you see. Okay, so yeah, so I mean, depending on like what you're doing, and Corey, you might be able to chime in on this, but kind of being your face on the hotel page. I mean, it depends on like how you're building your hotel page out. And so if you have it built out through I don't know whether whatever method or whatever site you're actually using to create your website, or if you have somebody with marketing who's doing that website for you, if you're outsourcing, right? So that I don't know if that would directly translate into having like your face up actually on that website page, but more along of what I'm addressing is how like when you get in an AI search or somebody's trying to look it up, or you just connect it to your LinkedIn post so that it kind of refers back to the hotel that you're at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I know what she's talking about. A select service hotel. I would 100% say double down on building your own personal brand. It's going to translate to the hotel, but you may not work there for 25 years. So focus on building that. Corey and Susan probably have statistics that, yes, while the hotel page is important as a placeholder and to talk about the culture and the people and leadership, um, ultimately your own brand is going to drive more followers. People do business with people. Like, I can't remember the last time I went to a page of a company on LinkedIn. It's
Agreed.
necessary, but I'll defer to the marketing people who actually work with hotels on building out the personal
And
brands versus the company page.
yeah, are you certain she's talking about a LinkedIn company page, or is she actually talking about a vanity website of the hotel?
I may have misread
So
it. It might be a
so
LinkedIn
she's
page.
not at a place, she's not at a place
Yeah.
that can do a vanity site yet. I mean, that may be making a comeback here. We'll see.
Yeah, actually, we're working on something right now for that because it in fact, if you go to any of the brand websites right now, it's hard to find a person. Like there's no team,
Correct.
there's no staff, there's no warmth, there's
Yeah.
nothing. It's like
Yes.
it's crazy. I
Because
literally
vanity sites were taken away from the brands like 7, 8, 9 years ago. They were all shut down. Hyatt has now implemented something where that the pendulum is swinging back the other way. So I do think we'll see shifts coming because they're going to have to allow for some flexibility. There won't be enough content on the branded sites for AI to pick up. Like the brands
bingo.
will lose out if they
Yep,
don't shift. So our feedback right now is to pour into answering FAQs. Like you got to build that from your personal side to help offset.
agreed. But like you said before, that's your own personal equity. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you're doing it for yourself. Make yourself the prize and add it to the channels and things that you can control. Maybe
Yes.
Susan, did you want to add a little bit of that?
Susan, did you want to talk? Or are you
We're just
good?
dominating the conversations here. So
No, thank you. We're over time anyway.
I
Yes,
know.
lots more to come. I know people have a lot of questions, and this is why we know we don't subscribe to like one and done. It's an evolution. You will see lots of changes happening with brand sites, with FAQs, with AI scraping info and indexing and what that looks like, and Google changing to an AI homepage. Like just there's a lot going on. I think fundamentally it's just get curious. I mean, my takeaway would be like just get curious and start. Like having conversations is the quickest way for you to build credibility, to ask for referrals. And there's a lot that we can dive into maybe on a future topic of like, oh, my face was really big on how to ask for referrals in a way that
Ooh, there we go.
doesn't seem like you're asking someone to write a recommendation for you, that you're actually like doing some of the work. Would be a great thing to have for a
Yeah.
future topic.
And it's a lot easier to ask for those referrals when you're giving something, right?
Mhm.
You have to give to get. And I think that's a perfect way to wrap this whole thing up versus creating that personal brand and inbound versus a proactive versus reactionary culture. So much to talk about here. This is amazing. This has been a great, fantastic dialogue, y'all. I knew it would be,
Yes.
but thank you for sharing that, Nick. It was amazing.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited. I, can't wait to talk more with you all. It's just an ever changing, ever evolving industry. And I know things and trends are always going to be changing. So it's, the one thing I'll say to leave is just, be open to that change and go with it, right? See how you can bring your unique value, because everybody has a unique value, unique identifier that is theirs. So use that.
Well said. Well said. All right, guys. I know we have the rule follower keeping us on track here. So we're 8 minutes past.
I appreciate it. I gotta go eat lunch. It's 2 o'clock at my time zone that I'm in right now. So yes, I appreciate it, Nick. Thanks so much for sharing your time. If you're watching, give Nick a follow. DM him about like how do I get started with like what do you press play for, like how do you do it. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to either co-create content or brainstorm some ideas on his own content generation path, which we appreciate you sharing your journey with us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Feel free to reach out. Happy to kind of throw, toss back ideas, let you know a little bit more about what I do and, how maybe that you could take that and run with it. So I'm always open for a conversation, and just, again, thank you all for having me on today.
Thank you,
Take
man.
care. Thank you so much.
See you guys.
Bye.